Hi, everyone. I hope this finds each of you so very, very well. I'm speaking to you from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, excited to have this opportunity to interview D.Mitry Gelfand, a writer and director whose daughter inspired and helped him from the other side to create the movie My True Fairytale. D.Mitry will be speaking to us today from Voorheesville, New York. A classically trained pianist, originally from Minsk, Belarus, D.Mitry was 15 when he arrived in Albany, New York with his parents. In 1993, he graduated from Albany High School, and in 1997 from the University of Albany. He made his way into cinema via theater, his plays staged off-off-Broadway, and in 1998, at the Eugene National Playwrights Conference in Connecticut. D.Mitry's first films were shorts, which he wrote, directed, and scored, and his most recent, Shade of Music, drew accolades at festivals and aired on Seattle Public Television. In May 2017, D.Mitry's 17-year-old daughter died after her car crashed into a tree. But she's been with him in the nearly 3 years since, D.Mitry says, leading and guiding him as he wrote and directed the film she inspired, titled My True Fairytale, which D.Mitry calls an uplifting tragedy. I'm looking forward to talking with D.Mitry about his grief journey, which includes the creation and production of My True Fairytale. This is going to be one fascinating interview. Hi, D.Mitry. Welcome to Grief and Rebirth Podcast.
Hello, Irene. So great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is just going to be so special. And I loved your movie.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Let me begin our interview with this question. Please tell us about your precious daughter, Alyssa, your relationship with her, and the last time you talked with her just before her accident.
Alyssa, the synonym to describe Alyssa would be love. And from the moment she came into this world on January 1st, 2000, being a millennium baby, to the moment she departed, which was the Memorial Day weekend of 2017, I just had a terrific relationship with her. It was more of a twin relationship. In fact, Alyssa called me her twin, partly because we looked alike, and second, because we very much were very similar on the inside.
Wow, that's amazing. So you were very close to her. And then she had this accident. So would you like to, I'm sure you wouldn't like to, but please describe her accident and share what your grief journey was like after the accident. And then I just love that you had a celebration of her life.
Yeah. My ex-wife and I, we were living in Seattle. We had moved prior to this happening in 2014 in December. And Alyssa lived with her grandparents, my parents. And I visited her in May of 2017, and I took her to Syracuse University, where she really, really wanted to attend college. And 11 days later, I received a phone call from my mother saying that it's past 9 o'clock, and since she was not yet 18, she should have been home, and she wasn't back yet. And I wasn't really worried, but there was a couple of things that felt a little strange. A day before, I had a very quick FaceTime for less than 30 seconds with her, and I felt that she was in a dark place. And I really couldn't tell what exactly it is, but I just had that feeling. And lo and behold, my mother tells me, oh, I have to go. There is a police officer on the driveway. And then she was on the way to the hospital because there was a crash, and Alyssa with two of her friends was involved in the crash, and there was no details. And this is where I'm starting to get worried. And then I get that phone call that I hope nobody ever gets. And the phone call where my mother tells me, we don't have Alyssa anymore. And when that hits you, I mean, when it hit, I could tell you what happened to me. When it hit me, all of a sudden, everything just came to a pause. And I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I started to hyperventilate because it was just, I felt like I was in a vacuum space.
What a shock.
Yeah. I immediately got in the car and I flew to New York because I was living in LA, and I called my ex-wife and I had to tell her what happened. And all of us, of course, we met in upstate New York in Albany, where there was still a little glimmer of hope, but it was fading very quickly. She was hooked up to the machines. What had happened was the car hit a tree, and in the process of it, Alyssa's spinal cord separated from her brain. And unfortunately, after the state exam, they had to pronounce her brain dead.
How heartbreaking. But you also had, after you went through the funeral and everything, you also had a wonderful celebration of her life. So within your grief, you were able to pull that together. What was that about?
It's very strange because when I got on the plane, the metaphysical phenomenon started for me when I got on the plane from LA to Atlanta, then to New York. I had this very weird sensation in my left hand, and it almost felt like a paperweight was placed on my left hand. And I automatically thought that I'm probably going to have a heart attack, and this is what it feels like to have a heart attack. And then that strange paperweight felt on the right hand, and I said to myself, well, that can't be right. And the thought had crossed my mind that it is Alyssa who is communicating with me. And then during my first breakdown, which happened privately, and as I was taking a shower, and when we knew that we couldn't save Alyssa and we had to actually make preparations to have her funeral, I had this very, very strong sensation. It's almost like she possessed me, not possessed me, but she was telling me, hey, what would I do if I was in your place? Like what? And the thought that came to me, I want to celebrate my 18th birthday, and that's the only thing that I want to do. I can't wait to be the 18th. And
was she very close to her 18th birthday when the accident happened?
January 1st was her 18th, so she was literally 6 months away.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And at that point, I knew that there's not going to be any funerals. There's not going to be any bodies. There's going to be a celebration. And that's the first strange thought that came to me. And I knew I had to do this because that's what she would want me to do. And of course, I announced this to the family. And I think they were in a place where like anything would have gone.
Whatever you say, whatever you want, whatever you say, right?
Yes.
Wow. And so that was like a really successful celebration of her then. I mean, with all the mixed emotions, but it was really what Alyssa would have wanted.
In fact, this is exactly what we did. After the funeral, after the funeral home, we went to a restaurant, and we celebrated her 18th birthday, and it was very strangely uplifting in the wake of such
grief and despair. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow. How did she connect with you after the accident? Besides the weights on your hands, were there other ways that she connected to let you know that she was still with you?
Well, Irene, I have to tell you that I started to experience the signs from the moment I entered the house. The lights were flickering on and off.
Wow.
the strange incident that happened was we would be sitting at a table and the bell would ring and nobody would be there. And that's okay. It happens sometimes. So we would take the batteries out and the bell would still ring without the batteries. And it was, on one hand, it was improbable. On the other hand, that's what had to happen. And then we saw a lot of moths that came in. And in fact, one of the moths slept in the same room where I slept in the house, right next to me.
A moth? The insect?
Yes.
Now, why a moth, do you think?
I don't know if it's a butterfly or moth, but I took pictures. I actually have detailed pictures. I don't know if I'm calling it correctly, but
Probably a butterfly, you think?
a butterfly, a night butterfly. That's what
Yeah.
they're called. I don't know if it's a moth or not.
Right. Were you spiritual before all of this happened, Dmitry, or did this serve as an awakening for you of sorts?
I'd like to think that I was spiritual, but only Irene by virtue of reading a lot of metaphysical, esoteric, and spiritual literature. I knew that this was my journey in a way, and I was fascinated with the notion of NDEs. And I read a lot of.
But for our people, for those listening, NDE is a near-death experience. Just for those who don't know what that is.
That is correct. That is correct. But yeah, I've read several books on spirituality, and in fact, I tried meditating, but nothing could prepare you for something like this. And then from here on, it's like I really had to take it to the next level.
I think it's amazing that you were reading those books. I mean, it was like, in a way, it was like you were preparing yourself for what was to come, that you were drawn to them. What inspired you to make My True Fairytale, which you felt you had to make, as opposed to the film you wanted to make? And why did you name the movie My True Fairytale?
You know, Alyssa was such a happy person. In this present form as we know ourselves, like in 3D, I just refused to believe that she was gone. Simply from the moment I heard the news, it was just inconceivable to me. And I set out on this journey to find her, to bring her back. And the only way I knew how to do this was to first write her back and then to make a film about her. And that's why I did this. And why I named it My True Fairytale, because from the very beginning, I set off to write a very weird genre. I wanted to write a happy tragedy. In other words, a tragedy that has a happy ending. And then My True Fairytale is sort of also an oxymoron. There is no true fairy tales. It's either a fairy tale or true. And then only later, the meaning dawned on me. But all of this, I have to admit, I transcended through Alyssa and through the guides.
That's amazing. You say you lost Alyssa, then found her by writing the movie. Do you want to say anything else about that?
Well, yeah, like I said, I wanted to bring her back, and I knew that the only way I could bring her back is by writing her back. And I knew that I was on one way and she was on the other way, and somewhere we were bound to meet if we worked very hard at it. And it worked. Oh
my gosh. How close was your portrayal of Alyssa to the personality of the lead character named Angie in the movie?
Very close.
She's a wonderful actress, the girl who played Angie.
Yes, Emma Kennedy. It was her first feature film as a Hollywood film, and I think she just did such an amazing job, and really came through as that vibrant and that lovable girl who is there to save everyone's world.
Yeah, she really is their angel. Um, how did Alyssa's friends help you with the movie? And what did that mean to them to be a part of creating this movie with you and Alyssa?
Oh, how they didn't help me. Oh my God.
How many of them, what was the core group of friends who helped you?
Well, that's a tough one because there was about 12 or 13.
Wow, she was well loved.
I'm talking about very close 12 or 13 that went and did interviews, and I wanted to become part of the gang. So I met with them, with each one of them, or sometimes with smaller groups. And I wanted to be part of that group. And then I wanted this film somehow to help them have some type of closure. And so they wind up creating the names for every single character in the film. And because, this is film and you cannot include everything, we wind up having to mix maybe 3 or 4 people into one story and so on and so forth. And it's, but to answer your question, yeah, a lot of them have reached out to me after the film, and they were speechless, and they were so honored to be part of this project, and so thankful.
What a blessing for them. Alyssa helped you co-write My True Fairytale from across the veil, even navigating through scenes as you were writing them. What was that like? And please share your story about being stuck with a certain scene and Alyssa giving you the resolution for that scene.
Yeah, this is a good one because she was with me every step of the way, and I remember distinctly where the main things in the film, even the lines, where I wrote them and how did it happen. But there's one particular scene that comes to mind where I really had witnessed a physical miracle in 3-dimensional space as we know it. I was writing a scene between Angie, the main character, and her father after a fight that they had. And
I remember that well. That was very, very poignant. Yes, go ahead.
And she and I was stuck with the scene, and I didn't know how to go forward because I really written myself into a corner. And it's been a day and 2 and 3, and I really didn't know how to move. And all of a sudden, and every scene I write with a song or a music. I have to have some type of a musical background for each scene that I write.
Well, you're a classical pianist too, so you're very connected. Your creativity. I was a violinist growing up, so I know your creativity is very linked with.
Yes, and the music helps you sort of.
I understand that very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although I listen to absolutely separate music for the scenes, and I've tried for this scene. I've tried all different several types of film music, and none of it works because I don't like to hear songs because songs convoluted with words, and all of a sudden. The song, I don't know how, something happened. YouTube starts playing on my computer a song by Coldplay called Fix You. And all of a sudden, I started vibrating. I started getting those goosebumps. And I knew that this was the line. And I knew that Alyssa had communicated to me before quite a bit through the lyrics of songs. And I knew that this one was the line. And so the line in the film became, I can fix you.
I remember.
And that's where the scene turned into a different direction.
I remember that so well. It was such a wonderful part of the movie. It was like a real turning point. What are some of the many signs Alyssa's given you and others to let you all know she's still with you? And what have you received from her since the movie came out? Have you gotten a bravo from the other side? Have you communicated with her since then? She must be very involved in this.
She has been, and she has been involved behind the scenes as well. And Suzanne Giesman always talks about the setups, and she has created the setups for me. She has created a setup for me to meet my current wife, for example, who was born on the same date as Alyssa was, who
Oh
became,
my goodness.
yes, just so that I don't mistake, January 1st.
Wow.
And she turned out to be the producer of the film. And without her, this film would never get made. I am very close with a friend of mine who is a medium, Stacy Jones, who has done a reading before I did the film and after the film, and who has indicated to me that Alyssa has seen the film over 10 times.
Wow.
Personally, to me, Alyssa speaks in two different ways. She speaks to me in holding my hands, and she had explained to me after the film has been distributed and we knew that the film was coming out as a theatrical release, she had explained to me that holding my hand meant I'm gonna walk you through this. And most importantly, she had left me a deck of cards. These are tarot cards, but they're very strangely tarot. They're tarot cards of Oracle of Rama. And they have an incredible rate of accuracy for me. It's a two decks, and you just sort of pick two different cards. And she had predicted the whole path from the very beginning to the very end. And I still, to date, I do it at least once or twice a week. I do a reading.
Wow. And by the way, for those of you who do not know who Suzanne Giesman is, because D.Mitry mentioned her, she's an absolutely wonderful medium, a spiritual, metaphysical healer. And I have also interviewed her on the podcast, so you can refer back to that for Suzanne Giesman. She's wonderful. And D.Mitry, this is super important for everyone. My True Fairytale communicates a message about the strength of love, which is connected to being a superhero. I just love this. Please tell us about the movie, whatever you'd like us to, whatever you'd like us to know, why you call it an uplifting tragedy, and also how the superhero concept connects to all of our lives.
Well, that's a very, very loaded question. Let me
see. Hugely loaded, but I really think it's the crux of your movie. It really.
I guess I will start by saying that to me, Alyssa was always a hero, and this film is not about her, and this film is for her and from her. And the message of the film is that, yes, indeed, love is that superpower that we all have as superheroes. And that power of love could cure everything, including death. And it's that eternal connection, if you will, that gets you to that other side. For me, in the sense with Alyssa. And while creating this message and while writing this film and then later making this and putting finishing touches, I realized that my ambition to make this film became more of a meaning. And the meaning is that we are all superheroes. And my true fairy tale is really not as Alyssa's true fairy tale. It's yours and mine and everybody else. And we are all heroes in our own lives. And it is up to us to make our life a fairy tale or not. And we get to say what part we play in it.
Oh, I think that's beautiful, because we do have choice about how our lives unfold in many ways. And I also love the idea that our loved ones, our deceased loved ones, can become our superheroes also because it's still involved in our lives and making contributions. Would you agree?
I couldn't agree more. And, again, us being in this three-dimensional beings, just having this three dimensions communicating with the fifth dimensional beings, and that really have the sense of teleportation and time and knowing exactly when things are going to be set up and things that are going to happen. It's just really magnificent to see unfold.
Yeah, it really is. Working on My True Fairytale brought you even closer to Alyssa. In what ways do you feel? I mean, you had an amazing relationship with her before the accident. How do you feel you're even closer now?
In a way, I feel that she guides me. She tells me things. She tells me how to do things in the right way. And when I say in the right way, I mean things that have meaning and things that help people to see things in a better way. In other words, if I could summarize it, how to give as opposed to receive.
Wow. And I have to ask how your family members reacted to the movie. I'll bet you had, for 10 family members, you had 10 different reactions.
Well, I have to be honest with you that, it's not only family members, some I haven't heard from some of Alyssa's close friends who were very close to me before the film. And also I have not heard from my ex-wife, Alyssa's mother. And that is not a bad reaction to me. To me, it's, I respect everyone's grieving process. And whether they liked it or they didn't choose to be part of that, to be part of this process, I totally have to respect it. On the other hand, people that have embraced it, they were speechless, and it really resonated with them. I'm super blessed to have that.
That's wonderful. You have described Alyssa as a new wave soul. What does that mean? I personally have never heard that expression, D.Mitry. So share, please.
I will be honest with you that I have heard this from two different sources. There's a Kabbalistic source. Kabbalah's teachings of, they say it's Jewish mysticism, and I have heard it from Dolores Cannon.
What's Dolores Cannon?
So Dolores Cannon is, I believe she is somebody who did past life transgressions, and she's quite famous, and she's written several books on the subject matter, and she talks about 3 waves of volunteers. And one of the waves of volunteers is the 3rd wave, the indigo children, or children of the souls that come in for the sole purpose of teaching us something, and then sort of going back to where they came from. And we don't know, maybe it's another planet or it's another dimension, but in a different space. And to me, Alyssa, from the very early age, all the way to her departure, she felt like she was almost not human. And
in the way that she was so loving and like more mature for her age, perhaps, or
it felt like she would give you a wise advice, and sometimes that advice would come jokingly. After all, she was a teenager. and she would get in trouble as a teenager too. But her advice was so mother-like and so wise that sometimes it made me wonder, even if she said that sarcastically. Now, all those little symbols, her dressing up on Halloween only as Angel, always having purple butterflies near her. In fact, and 2 hours before the accident happened, she was at the airport watching the planes fly. And a spot where she went quite a bit. And I think deep inside, she knew that something related to an accident would happen to her, because she had a very strange fascination, and nobody knows about this but my family. And her fascination was to sit sometimes for hours on YouTube and look at the plane crashes.
Wow.
Yes, and she had this fascination. I want to be an investigator. I want to know why this happened. And that always was very peculiar, because there's really no school for this type of thing. There kind of is, but there isn't. But every time I would bring up a spiritual subject with her, she would always brush it off like a wise shaman woman. She would say, "Oh, why would you want to talk about this? No, you don't want to know your future. Why would I want to know that?" And in a way, she would give such wise advice to me, whether it was for business or whether it was spiritual, that sometimes it really boggled my mind.
She was mature way beyond her years. Knowing. Indeed. She had a knowing. Tell us about the awards My True Fairytale has received, and what's the path it's following.
Well,
and tell us all.
Well, translating a script into a film is not an easy undertaking, and especially if you do it in Hollywood. So there's a lot of films that get made, but my goal from the beginning was not to sell this film and make a ton of money. No, I didn't even think about this. All I wanted to do was I wanted to have this film seen by as many people as possible. That's the only thing that I had in mind. And
you had a message to share.
Exactly. Right. And right off the bat, we got rejected from very big festivals, from like Cannes, from Venice. But the film was we hit it right at the COVID. When the COVID started, we completed our film. So nobody wanted new films at that time. Everybody had to deal with COVID. And so we wind up having this film, and all of a sudden nobody, we don't know what to do with this. And miraculously, but not so miraculous.
Maybe not such an accident, right?
A company called the Circus Road Films, and a man by the name of Glenn Reynolds came to rescue, and he has a production company who produces and sells films. Saw a trailer for the film and asked to see the film, and he said, "You know what? I think you have something very special here, and I think I can help you sell this film." And meanwhile, we're waiting to hear from the festivals. And then within 2 weeks, we had multiple offers from pretty prestigious companies. And we decided to go with Gravitas Ventures, a big studio distribution company that puts those films out there into the world, because they saw in the film what I was hoping a film distribution company would see. I knew after I had gotten off the phone with the acquisition team that this was a right home for the film. Keep in mind, the film did not appear at any of the festivals then. And Venice said no, and Cannes said no, And so we thought it's just going to go out and it would have this limited theatrical release, and this is fantastic, wonderful. And all of a sudden, when distribution was finished with the film, we've heard from one of the biggest festivals in the States called CineQuest, who wanted to have our film as a premiere in, I think it happened in March. And then Top 50 Festival, Julien Dubuque in Iowa, accepted us and nominated us as the best feature film. And we actually wind up doing that film in April in person. It was the first festival in person in the United States. They had flown us down to Dubuque, Iowa, and we did not win, but it was nominated as the best.
Oh my goodness.
And it came out everywhere and all the platforms on April 9th of this year.
You must be thrilled. It's astounding. I mean, it's an honor to your daughter, and it has such a wonderful message, and it's starting to fly. It's just wonderful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I really understand that. D.Mitry, how would you say the theme of your movie, My True Fairytale, is connected to your message about the importance of healing for all of us?
Healing is a choice. You have to sort of take a chance, and you have to take a very drastic chance, because when something dramatic like this happens in your life, you have to take a dramatic choice. And I'm simply talking about myself right now. I was faced with two choices. I could either go into drugs, get into alcohol, or other dark things. And I said, I could always do this, but let me try to do what I haven't done before. And I went a little drastic. Stop eating meat. Let me start meditating every single day. Let me start to see if this thing is real. Let me try to connect to that other side. And in a way, you set off on this journey, and it almost becomes a tale told by Joseph Campbell, A Hero with Thousand Faces, or A Journey of a Hero. You have been summoned to take a journey, and you become a hero in your own story. And it's a very, very tough story that you have to tell, because you have to go through a deep forest or deep water, and you do not see the other side. But you will get there as long as you have faith. And when I say faith, when you let things go, because that's what the meaning of faith is. Because once you let things go and allow things to happen and have trust and faith in the universe, the things will magically manifest themselves to you.
Well, I think that part of what you're saying is there are so many people who are attached to control, and part of healing is to let go and to let yourself be guided and to be tuned in to what the messages that are coming through to you.
Exactly. On the three-dimensional level, the worst thing has happened. It could only be better. You have hit the rock bottom.
What a great way to look at that, really. So now everyone wants to connect with you, D.Mitry, and they all want to see My True Fairytale. How do they find you, and how do they find the movie?
Very, very simple. mytruefairytale.com is the easiest way. If you forget that, our publicity team and distributors did such a phenomenal job that if you go into Google and you just type in My True Fairytale,
They'll find it.
everything will pop out. It's available on every major platform right now. And we're hoping that within the next 60 to 90 days, it will be available to a wider audiences on the bigger platforms.
That's marvelous. And to get a hold of you, do you have a specific website, or is it mytruefairytale.com? Is that your website also?
It will go directly to our production team. If you do want to get with me personally, you could email us at purplelightpictures, one word.com.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, and Dmitry, what is your tip for finding joy in life, which I think you found in many ways?
Surprise yourself. Try to go a little bit beyond your comfort zone and try to see things differently. Lao Tzu has this the author of Tao Te Ching, which happens to be one of my top 3 favorite books in the world. He has a fantastic message. When you change the way you look at things you look at change. And I think you will surprise yourself when that happens.
Wow, that's wonderful. Very profound. I've seen your wonderful movie, My True Fairytale, and I really, truly love its message about our deceased loved ones becoming our superheroes through the power of love. Surely, many in our Grief and Rebirth podcast audience now want to see My True Fairytale with its important message about the lasting power of love from beyond the veil. Dmitry, thank you from my heart for this really special interview.
Thank you very much, Irene.
Oh, my pleasure. And here's a reminder, everyone, that you can see the show notes and all Grief and Rebirth podcast episodes on ireneweinberg.com. And make sure to follow us and like us on social at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. As I like to say, to be continued. Many blessings, and bye for now.